welcome back to True Sports with MK. I'm your host, MK, providing sports your way. And on today's episode, we have a special guest with us today. This phenomenal athlete has played football for over 15 years. He won Defensive Lineman of the Year, All GLIAC honors, and conference champion for the Grand Valley State football. Ladies and gentlemen, we have James McBride. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I want to thank you for doing this interview with me today. I do greatly appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Perfect. So we want to first start off talking about your football career. This episode is actually going to be about Ferris State versus Grand Valley rival. Now, crazy thing about it is I went to Ferris State and you went to Grand Valley. So, it's kind of like a rival that we always have for a long time. But before we get into that, like I stated, I do want to talk about your football career starting off. So you did play football in high school where you played on the varsity team, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I played varsity since sophomore year of high school.
Okay, perfect. And you played on the offensive line and defensive line.
I was saying, I played both ways up until my senior year. Then I focused on defense so I could raise up my recruiting.
Okay, perfect. Now, was it difficult or challenging playing on both sides?
Personally, I didn't find it that challenging. I thought offense was pretty easy. I really didn't want to play offensive line. I kind of did it because my brother was an offensive lineman and he was 2 years older than me. So my only chance to be able to play with him in high school was to play O-line so we could both start together before he graduated, and kind of went from there. But senior year, realized I needed to go to college at some point to get a scholarship, so I stopped playing offensive line so I could get looked at as a defensive lineman for college only.
Okay. Now, after you graduated from Pike High School, you did get a scholarship to Grand Valley State University. After being redshirted your first year, how much did that motivate you to get on the field during your next year?
I think it made me very motivated. You kind of got to sit down. You can't take it too to heart. You realize what's going on. You fresh on campus. You 18. It's a bunch of 20-year-olds out there. You got to get some time to develop. Take that redshirt year real serious. So, sophomore year, you got a much better chance going out there and actually getting on the field and getting looked at.
Okay, and you did really develop because throughout your college football career, you won Defensive Lineman of the Year. How did that feel winning that?
I felt real good. It was an honor. It's always a good feeling to know that your hard work is paying off, that other people are noticing what you're doing out there on the field, especially since it's a award voted on by the teammates, everybody else, that my peers and everything. When your peers think that you're doing a good job and coaches, that's a good feeling.
Now, if you are just now tuning in, this is True Sports with MK. Today we have a guest on the show, James McBride. Now we're going to go ahead and transition into the rivalry between the two universities, Grand Valley and Ferris State. Now, why do you think the two universities had such a big rivalry with each other?
I don't want to say I know the exact roots of it, but I would assume just the close proximities, the two rapids, the Grand Rapids, Big Rapids. You could go with the red or blue thing. I'm not sure, but it was a big thing. Real passionate rivalry. No matter where it was at, if it was in Grand Rapids or Big Rapids, both fan bases always showed up. Real good environment. Always real passionate games.
Okay. Now, how did your teammates come together to prep for those rivalry matchups whenever you had those?
You always got to kind of lock in. You always take it a little bit more serious. And all games are supposed to take serious, but when Ferris week comes up, it's really time to lock in, get going, make sure everything is going right, whether it be on the field, off the field, just taking care of your 2 square yards, making sure you're squared away to get going for the game on Saturday.
Now, you had a season high of 5 tackles against Ferris in 2018. Did those rival games impact your intensity during the game?
Definitely, yeah. You kind of feel you could only control what you can control, so if you're doing your best to do your job, make your production felt on the field, then that'll like almost help towards the end result to hopefully come out with that victory. So being as big of a rival as they were, you always want to try to put your best effort out when you wind up against Ferris.
Okay. And can you just describe to me the feeling of playing the Bone Classic games against Ferris?
Yeah, the Anchor Bone is like real physical, like real physical games. You kind of know you got to tighten your chin strap up a little tighter to make sure you're all good to go. It's going to be physical. It's going to be bumps and bruises. You got to fight through it. Just play with passion and grit.
And you speak about grit. How much grit do you think you guys had against the Ferris State team? Because, you know, I used to watch those matchups, and me being a Ferris State alum, I always wanted my team to win. But those are those matchups where you guys did come out on top. How much grit did you think you guys had to come up with just to get through those wins?
When it comes to Ferris, I feel like it was always different. A lot of our games were pretty close. Some games weren't as close, but even like when the result went in our favor, you still out there, you fighting tooth and nail to the end of the, like whistle to whistle. So from start to finish, no matter what the result is, you got to go out there, try your best to keep fighting. You never want to get embarrassed against Ferris, so you always got to put up a big effort to try to do what you can do for Grand Valley.
All right, and final question. So you ended your college career with 80 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, and at least 5 QB sacks. What's one memorable moment from your college football career?
I would say my most memorable moment would be like my junior year. That would be the year that I got GUIAC and won Defensive Lineman of the Year. Just throughout that whole year, kind of like taking that big step of not playing as much to now you're like that guy, people kind of relying on you, being like a voice heard on the defensive line and things like that. Just making sure you go out, lead by example, and leave an impact on the field. I feel like I did a pretty good job of that year, so that'll probably be my most memorable moment would just be like my entire junior year.
I understand that. You did have a great year that season. Well, I do greatly appreciate you being on this interview and taking the time to answer a few questions for me. We have the Defensive Lineman of the Year, Conference Champion from Grand Valley State, James McBride. I greatly appreciate you. This is True Sports with MK, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Appreciate you.